Hi, my name is Vesa Juvonen and I work as a principal consultant in Microsoft Corporation. I'm really excited to be here to talk about the new MySite and social capabilities we have in SharePoint 2010. We'll first start by introduction to social features in SharePoint 2010. There's a lot of new capabilities available which we can utilize in our deployments and in our customizations. Then we'll cover the changes in MySites and how it can be customized if required. In the following section, we'll concentrate on the user profile management and especially on the changes compared to the previous SharePoint version. There's also new functionalities available in blogs and wikis. In this section, we'll also cover the new Enterprise Wiki option, which provides new flexibility for layout handling and other new possibilities. As a final topic, we'll go through other miscellaneous social capabilities and how these can be utilized in our customizations. Let's start by introduction to social capabilities in SharePoint 2010. What's available and how we can how they are provided. SharePoint is a great platform for social capabilities. There's a lot of out-of-the-box functionalities available which we can further develop as based on our requirements. We have different kind of social sites available which can be used as they are, or they can be edited either by developer or end users. There has been a lot of improvements on the user profile functionalities, including MySites and audiences. Probably the most visible new functionalities are tagging, rating, and notes. This can be used to interact between other versions, and in many deployments with the SharePoint 2007, these functionalities used to be developed as part of the customizations. From tools point of view, there's much better tools for developers and site designers to change the user experience. We can use Visual Studio 2010 or SharePoint Designer to customize the social capabilities. SharePoint 2010 offers a wide range of collaboration and social computing tools that allow people to work together the way they want. Whether they are more comfortable doing asynchronous collaboration through team sites and workspaces or broadcasting their status updates to their colleagues' network. The diversity of the toolsets also allows people to collaborate anytime, anywhere, regardless of whether they are connected to corporate network or working from their PC, phone, or browser. SharePoint 2010 community platform can be divided to 4 parts, as in follows. We have the create, which basically create content and rich media, as well as edit, contribute to other people's content through rating and commenting. Share ideas, content, networks, resources with their colleagues and others in the organization. Network with others who may share similar interests through dynamic status updates and activity feeds. Find the right people and information faster, allowing them to make better decisions and become more efficient and productive. The SharePoint 2010 community solutions help to make diverse, chaotic, fragmented organizations into much smaller seeming cohesive communities of people who better understand how they fit into the overall enterprise ecosystem. SharePoint relies heavily on user-centric approach, where many of the functionalities utilizes user profiles. User profiles can be created for any authenticated users to store user-dependent information like address or organizational data. There's rich object model available to manipulate profile information, and it can be also accessed using web services. In SharePoint 2010, there's a lot of new social information-related functionalities, which are, for example, the tags, notes, and rating functionality. Each user with the profile has also activity feed, which can be used to track user-dependent activities. Activity feed is also extensible, so it can be also used to track user-dependent actions from third-party applications as well. There's also a new organization browser available, which provides easy-to-use interface to move between the organization hierarchy and to view the different dependencies between users. Social feedback means the social tags, notes, and rating information, which helps to categorize, promote, and retrieval of relevant links. Social feedback applies to any URL inside or outside the SharePoint. It also has its own security trimming, which means that the tags are security aware, ensuring that there's no sensitive information shown to persons who don't have access to particular content. Basically, social feedback is at very basic level a tree tuple of consists from person URL and from actual feedback. Tagging means capability to add metadata for any site or a page. Tags can be used to increase discovery of the documents, and they are also used to create tag clouds in My Sites. We can use enterprise-wide metadata taxonomies with tagging, bringing consistency with the tags we are using. Notes provide out-of-the-box way to add notes for URLs, which means, for example, pages and sites. There's a Notes button visible in the ribbon by default, which can be used to write comments. We can also utilize the out-of-the-box Note web part, which can be placed to any page to provide commenting functionality. Documents and items can be rated using new rating columns or rating functionality. You can enable rating for any library from list settings, including the Pages library, which is used to store web content management pages. By enabling this functionality, you add required columns to the library, which are required for the actual rating functionality to work. There's also easy-to-use APIs to write custom rating solutions. This option is covered more detailed later in this presentation. Rating updates are applied to documents and items using out-of-the-box timer job, which will update the user's rating as scheduled task. This means that the ratings are not applied immediately within the particular second to those particular items, but they will be applied a little bit later. This slide defines different functionalities compared to different social feedback features. For some of these social functionalities, there's a separate web control available, and for some don't. Notice also that search crawls tag and rating information, but does not crawl notes. Tags can be used directly from Word client or Office client using, for example, document information panels. This enables easier update of the metadata information already during document creation time. Social networking is based on activities and colleagues. Users can follow up their activities from My Site. This framework is extensible so that we can use the same functionality to track also activities outside of the SharePoint. There's optional email notifications for noteboard functionality and for additional activities as well. Each user can also modify their current status, which would be visible on colleagues' activity lists. Also, the People Search functionality has been improved. People Search crawl takes social information into account when the relevance of search result is decided. We can also benefit from the additional profile properties, which can be used. We can also benefit from profile properties, which can also be used as an additional information concerning people's skill and expertise. In this section, we'll concentrate on My Site functionality in SharePoint 2010. My Site has two different sites, which are for public information and for private information. There's numerous functionalities available for these both sites. My Site key components can be divided to following layers. We have the pages and personalization sites, which provide the user interface for My Sites and other capabilities. My newsfeed shows relevant social activities based on user settings in profile page. My profile page shows overview of the particular user. You can also use this page to access to modify profile properties. There's a separate location for person-dependent content, which can be either public or private. Since the MySite platform is customizable or extensible, we can provide also additional functionalities. In the site collection level, MySites are divided to host MySite site collection and personal site collections, which are created for each user. These site collections are usually hosted in their own web application, like in address http://my or http://my sites. You can also host MySites under the same application, which have some other site collections like communicational intranet or team sites. MySite functionality utilizes service applications to be able to access user-dependent information. Most used service applications are Enterprise Managed Metadata Service, User Profile Service Application, and Search Service Application. MySite have changed quite a lot from 2007 version. There's a lot of new capabilities available, and also the default structures, including user experience, have changed a lot. Each MySite page will have by default user profile image and details from a user profile. You can also easily update the status message by using the specific status message control available from each of the pages. Public view of the MySite does not consist anymore from a single page with a lot of information. Rather, it consists from multiple pages. There's easy-to-use navigation to move between the different pages as required. One of the really cool new functionalities in the MySite is the activities. Activities shows information from users and colleagues based on user settings in his profile page. Each user can configure from which kind of activities he or she is interested. Activity framework is extensible, meaning that we can definitely develop our own custom activity applications, which could expose additional activities. We'll cover the activity application implementation more detailed later on this presentation. On this slide, we define the MySite architecture from a site collection structure point of view. We kind of have the discussion of this a little bit on the introduction slide, but let's concentrate on this a little bit more. MySite host is a single site collection which represents the public profile of the user. Web parts and controls on the MySite host will show different information based on the user who is actually accessing the site, meaning that all content is dynamic and shows only user-dependent information. Actual user-dependent MySites are in separate site collections, and those are created by default when a user accesses his or her MySite for the first time. These sites are used to store, for example, images, documents, and other files. There's a separate document libraries for public and private information, and you can also definitely create additional libraries as well. Moving between the host and user-specific site collection is completely seamless when out-of-the-box user interfaces are used. MySite host is always created using a specific MySite host template, which cannot be changed. Personal MySite are created as well using a specific MySite template, which cannot be changed either. Both of the templates can be customized in similar ways as in 2007 by using a feature staplers or other means defined in upcoming slides. Quite often asked question is that why these templates are locked and cannot be changed. This is actually due to the fact that there's a lot of out-of-the-box functionalities which rely on some of the standard structures to be created on both of the site types. If these structures would not be there, there would be issues and in other functionalities, and troubleshooting these kind of issues would be extremely difficult. Customizing the template is, however, relatively straightforward using feature framework. So how do we actually customize MySites and what kind of options are available? We can add out-of-the-box or custom web parts and controls to the MySite pages. We can customize the top navigation bar links. We can create additional content pages. We can obviously customize the existing pages in site. For branding purposes, we can change the master page to be used or utilize the new themed framework. We can also create any additional structures under the My Site host or personal My Sites. These can be subsites or simple document libraries and other lists. To help provide more information on each of these options, let's go through these in following slides. Customization of most of the pages in web part level is extremely straightforward. Most of the functionalities available on the page are located in web part zones. This gives us possibility to easily add, reconfigure or delete any of the functionalities either by using browser or automatically as part of site provisioning. Since there's only one public site host, public My Site host, we can easily customize its functionalities using browser. Automated approach especially is valid for the personal My Sites, since there will be much more of those created, depending of course on the company size. For the site provisioning automation, we have similar approach available as in 2007 version. If we need to create additional structures for the My Sites, like lists, we can use feature stapling techniques. Since, however, My Site pages are provisioned after associated features have been activated, there's no way to manipulate web parts from a feature receiver. This means that we can, for example, use a commonly used approach, where we manipulate the pages during initial request of the My Site. This can be achieved by rendering adding a custom control on a master page, which executes the modification code only during initial request on the site. Since My Site master page contains delegate controls, we don't necessarily need to modify the actual master page either, and we can inject our custom controls into the page if required. Most of the My Site pages are editable, which means that you can customize the web parts which are available. For these pages, we can easily add and modify and delete the functionalities as mentioned in the previous slides. On public site, most of the pages are editable except the organization view, tags and notes, and colleagues pages. These pages can be, however, replaced on the My Site by modifying navigation, but in that case you'll obviously lose some of the out-of-the-box functionalities. On personal My Sites, all pages are editable. You can also add additional pages to the My Site main navigation. By default, there's overview, organization, content, tags and notes, colleagues, and membership navigation links. You can add a new page to My Site by using either SharePoint Designer or using Feature Framework, for example, by stapling a custom feature to My Site host template. The following step is to modify the heading links of the My Site host, either using the browser UI or using object model. If object model approach is used, you can do this, for example, from a feature receiver. In this picture, there's a new My Site My Custom extension page added to My Site to provide additional information. Notice also that the upper area has been modified by adding a picture on top right corner. Each page on the My Site by default consists from the same upper area, and lower area is used to provide alternative functionalities. Notice also that you can use the same heading links editing approach to hide or remove any out-of-the-box functionalities if you required. One of the areas for customizations is the top link bar located in the top area of the My Site master page. This area or this navigation can be customized using multiple different approaches. The most simplest approach to modify the top link bar is you customize it using options available from the site settings menu or from the site settings. This functionality can be used to define new navigation nodes or to modify the existing ones. You can obviously automate this change also by using Feature Framework. We can also customize top navigation area using personalization site option. This means that you can provide links which are visible for only certain audiences. Audiences are dynamic groups created, for example, based on some profile properties. You can, for example, create an audience for project managers using the title field of the user profile. Similarly, as for the audiences, these audience-dependent links are defined in the user profile service application. Personalization sites are sites created using a specific template, which provide template to start building sites which content is dependent on user profile information. In this example defined on the slide, we've created a personalization site to specific URL in our intranet site collection. This URL has been defined to be shown for only those users which belong director's audience. This would mean that if users matching the audience rule would arrive to the My Site, this link within the top navigation bar would be visible. If you have requirements to completely change the top navigation link bar from the My Site master page, you can create a custom user control which can be registered to be shown over the default navigation option using Delegate Control option, which is available from Feature Framework. This would mean that in your solution package, our new custom navigation user control is deployed to control template folder, and we would include a feature where we define the user control to be rendered in place of the out-of-the-box navigation. For the branding changes, we can apply themes for the My Sites, both host and personalization sites. Themes are the most easiest way to change the rendering logic unless you need to modify the actual control structure. For more complete branding options, you can replace the used master page with the custom one. It's important to notice that the host and each personalization sites have referenced a different master page instance, so you need to apply the changes for both of these to provide consistent user experience. Notice also that the custom master pages should be carefully designed so that all required functionalities are present, like the navigation elements and so on. Let's have a look on how to customize the My Sites in practice.
In this demonstration, we'll concentrate on the My Site functionality and how we can actually customize the My Site layouts and different functionalities available. The My Site functionality consists from two different site collections or multiple different site collections, but the key differences are the public site collection, which is actually providing a lot of the basic functionalities which we are using in My Sites. As advantage as an additional site, we also have the individual personal site collections, which are used to share content or store private documents based on the requirements. And we can also have block sites created underneath the individual personal site collections. So the page which we're now seeing is on the public site collection side, and since it's a public site collection, it's the same sites and same pages for everyone accessing this My Site functionality, which basically means that for the most of the pages where we actually have individual web parts on the pages, we can really easily edit these pages just by switching the page to edit mode, as long as we have the sufficient access rights. And we can, for example, add new web parts or relocate some of the web parts within the page. And these changes will be available to every single My Site user immediately. So if you need to, for example, add new custom web parts to the public side of the My Site, that can be really easily done directly using the browser. As you can see, there's now new mid-size or main navigation within the page, which can be used to switch between different functionalities. There's also a separate navigation on the top, which is providing the newsfeed for listing the activities, access to the private side of the site collection or the private site collection, and back to the public side of the site collection. If we now need to modify these selections and these navigations, we can easily do that either using feature framework and manipulating a little bit the object model, or using the SharePoint designer. In this demo, let's add a new custom page to be available within the public side of the site, My Sites. So let's start by adding or starting the SharePoint designer. And we are connecting to the public side of the My Site. And from here we can, for example, see the person ASPX page, which is the default page to view individual person's profile information. In this case, we want to add a new page to the site. So let's start by copying the person and replacing, adding a new sample page to the public My Site. So sample ASPX page. And I can definitely do, as mentioned, this also from the feature framework, but just to demonstrate the functionalities, we are now using the SharePoint designer and editing the functionality directly within the sites. I start editing the sample ASPX page, which is now available within the My Sites. And from this we can see the main rendering mode of the pages consists from the upper area, where we actually see the name of the person, and we see, for example, the person image and about me information. The below area is for kind of a functionality specific functionalities or areas. And in here we can add, for example, web parts, like in this case for the person.aspx, so we don't need these within our customs page. Okay, let's get rid of the additional web parts. And we can get rid of these web parts as well. We can keep these web part zones available if we want, or we can actually get rid of those ones as well, if we like. In this case, let's actually just add some sort of a text within the page, just to demonstrate that we are actually using custom page. So custom page used under the My Site, and this is the sample ASPX page. We don't want to necessarily update the upper area of the page, since that is the same for every single page within the My Site. So if people would be switching between the site pages, if there's changes within the upper area, it might be confusing. But that's definitely one of the options as well. So if you need to update this upper area or include some additional information, that can be done as well. Let's save our changes to the site, and let's see that the actual sample ASPX page is available. So it's a sample ASPX page underneath the My Site. Let's move back to the browser and request the sample ASPX page. And here we can see our custom page, which is available. Now the custom page isn't dynamically available within the mid navigation area, so we need to add the navigation node for this particular page, so we're able to move between these functionalities within the public My Site. This can be done from the site settings and from the quick launch section. So basically we are adding a new heading for the quick launch, which is pointing to the sample ASPX page. My and sample.aspx, and this is custom page which will be available. And this will update the navigation. Also from the left side we can see already that the custom page is now available on the left side navigation, which is actually the same navigation which is visible within the My Site public view. This is also the place where you can change these different pages to be visible. So if you don't like to have, for example, the memberships page to be available within the My Sites, you can delete that from here. or you can actually also replace the page with a custom ASPX page if required. Let's move back to the My Site side, and let's go to the profile page, and we're able to see within the mid navigation that we have the custom page available. And if we go there, we're able to see our custom page which is under the My Site. And we can definitely move back to the overview and between the functionalities. The other navigation which we have available is the top level navigation. There's multiple ways to customize the top level navigation, but if for simple customizations, we can always go to the site settings and modify the top link bar to, for example, have a link to somewhere within the corporate network. Let's have a link to internetcontoso.com and intranet as the description. And as you can see, the top level navigation has been updated. This is also the section where we can create audience-based navigations. The audience-based navigation links are visible within the top navigation as well. Those can be created from the user profile service application. And we can also, if required, we can replace the whole navigation section in here, since that's a delegate control which can be changed in a similar way as we could change delegate controls already in 2007. If we now move to the private side of the My Site and have a look on the structures over there, we can see that the structures are much more simple. So in here we are basically sharing documents, and the shared documents is by default available for external or other people as well. The personal documents are by default restricted only to particular user. And we can definitely change this and customize this template as well. The classical way to customize this is to use, for example, feature receivers to create some new list libraries and functionalities within the site. And we can definitely also change, for example, the theme or the master page which we're using within this site as well. Just for the demonstration purposes, let's switch the theme of this particular My Site automatically. But since the private My Sites are created, the site collections are created for individual users one by one, it's much more convenient to actually associate some features or feature receivers and the necessary code to the existing My Site personal site definitions, so that these sites are automatically customized based on the requirements whenever the sites are created. But for the public profile functionality, it's relatively convenient to use even the SharePoint Designer, which is a brilliant tool for customizing the site structures and functionalities.
Social functionalities are dependent on a user profile service application, which provides a lot of great functionalities which we can use also in our own customizations. There's a lot of no-code functionalities provided as a platform from this service application, so that we don't have to write custom code for these commonly used functionalities. User profile dependent features are managed from the user profile service application. This service application, like other service applications, is available from the central administration web application, and it can be used to modify and customize functionalities available. Each authenticated SharePoint user can have their own profile, which usually is a combination of imported information from some external identity storage system and customized properties which are only available in SharePoint. Extended SharePoint-dependent properties can be used, for example, to provide or store user-dependent information which is stored in the user profile database. Good example of this is, for example, the latest user status message, which is stored within the user profile. User profile service application can be also used to manage user profile information synchronization organization information, and to change the My Site settings. We can use the profile service application to manage also social tags. We can search and delete the social tags based on profile ID or URL. We can also define particular date range for the delete actions. It's also possible to delete only a specific tag or a note. Notice that removing a social tag does not remove the terms from a term store. User profile property policy can be used to define privacy options for the property. For policy, there's few different options available. Default privacy setting can be used to define to whom the user property is visible. Properties that have the user override option selected enables users to change the default access policies by themselves. There's quite a few out-of-the-box user profile properties in SharePoint. As mentioned, you can also add additional properties as required based on your requirements. Properties can be either mapped or to identity storage system properties or only present in a SharePoint site. User subtype is a really interesting functionality available to differentiate user properties based on a subtype. This means that you can define profile properties which are only present for certain people and not available for default profiles. Contractors are a really good example. We could define an end date for their profile, but since the end date would not be meaningful for full-time employees, we don't need to create it to their profile. Let's have a closer look on the picture in the slides. First one shows how the subtype can be created and managed. In this example, we have a default profile and a separate profile subtypes for contractors and interns. Now if we start creating new profile property, we can define from which profile subtypes it will be available. Organization subtypes are a similar concept as the user subtypes and can be used to create ad hoc groups of people. Quite often, official organization does not match, for example, project organization, so organization subtypes can be used to define these virtual organization units. Organization subtypes are visible from people picker, and they help to manage group of users as one item. Let's have a quick look on the architecture of the profile service application. There's few changes in SharePoint 2010 compared to previous version. Profile service application has 3 different databases which are all used for different purposes. Social data database contains all information concerning social activities like notes, tags and ratings. Sync database is used for temporary storage of the important information from external identity storage systems. There's also a new profile synchronization service instance which is responsible of synchronizing profile information. Tagging utilizes also enterprise metadata service application which provides company-wide term sets and enterprise keywords. This service application is covered more detailed in a separate enterprise content management presentation. A lot of the social functionalities are dependent also on the search service application which crawls also rating and tags. As mentioned before, user profile service application is also responsible of the profile synchronization. Synchronization can be scheduled from the user profile service application management pages and it supports multiple different sources for synchronization source. Synchronization means that properties can be mapped to external identity management system properties like Active Directory, and user profile information is generated based on this. This means that, for example, phone number information is synchronized and available on SharePoint based on information in Identity Directory side. In previous version, mapped properties could not be modified in SharePoint side, and the synchronization of these properties supported only importing. 2010 supports also exporting of the information, meaning that we can update mapped information back to the directory source. This can be configured based on requirements on the particular environment. In this demonstration, we'll concentrate on administrating the social features. We'll cover also different options which are available to be used in your customizations.
In this demonstration, we'll concentrate on administrating functionalities of the My Sites, or generally the profile functionalities. And we can access these administration functionalities from the central admin. So underneath the application management, we have the Manage Service Applications selection available, and from here we can select the user profile service application to be configured. By clicking the Manage, we are able to see similar functionalities as we had in 2007 as well. So we're able to create or manage individual users or user profiles, create user subtypes, audiences, define the import and export synchronizations, import organizations, and the My Site settings. Let's start by having a look on the user profile properties. So the user profile properties are something which extends the information which is available on the identity storage system. And for these properties, we're able to map, for example, the email address from the AD to a certain property, and that will be available within the SharePoint as well. But the key point with the properties is the fact that we're able to create these SharePoint dependent properties, which are only used within the SharePoint. And as a developer or architect, we're also able to create or design or utilize these properties as part of our customizations. One of the good examples is, for example, the status message. So the latest status message the user actually defines within his My Site is a user profile property, which is available and which has been created within the user profile service application. And this user profile property stores the latest status message for convenient usage, so that we are always able to get the profile, the latest status message information as fast as possible. When we start creating user profile properties, we're definitely able to automate this using the object model, but we're able to also create this manually. So we are creating the name or defining the name for the property, which can be whatever we want. And good practice though is to have some sort of a prefix for your custom profile properties, for example customer intranet, and then the custom property. This way, if some other provider is providing some customizations within the same environment and will utilize the same user profile service application, these user profile properties won't overlap. And then we are able to define the display name, which will be visible within the UI. So let's say additional property. And based on after that we are able to define the property type, and after that we are able to define additional settings. For example, the policy settings, which is that is the particular profile property required or not, or is it optional. And for example, the privacy settings, that is it actually visible for any other users or not. So these security settings will be always checked when somebody is accessing your profile information. And we are also able to define that is the user editable or the profile property editable within the UI, which basically means that when I go to my site and I start modifying my profile, is the particular user profile visible there or not. Well, most of the cases when we utilize these custom user profile properties within our code, we don't necessarily want to expose those values on edit details page and so on. And we are also able to say that is the updates of this particular profile property visible within the news feed. So whenever the user is actually updating user profile properties, those will actually generate activities which are tracked. And the final setting is the fact that do we have mapping against this particular user profile? So is the actual source of this user profile property from some alternative system or not? Let's click cancel and let's move to a separate functionality. One of the functionalities which we already had in 2007 as well was the audiences. So audiences is something which we can do and create an audience to differentiate users, for example, based on some attribute or based on some profile. And in this case, we, for example, have directors audience, where we are checking that user is satisfying all of the rules. Let's update the owner information. So we are able to create these rules and groups, dynamic groups, which can be used to differentiate, for example, information which is visible within the UI. These don't directly affect the authentication, but it's based on, we can use these audiences to change what kind of elements are visible, for example, web parts in the UI. In this case, we have created directors audience, and we have set that the rule is that the users have to report, or the Dan Jump has to be the manager of this those users who are part of this audience. And now whenever we compile this, or whenever the audience is truly available, there's some of the end users or some of the users of the portal belong to this user, and we are able to, for example, limit the web part visibility, or for example the my site links visibility, which we can show immediately after this. So if we want, for example, to manage or limit what kind of my site links are available within the my site top navigation, we can do that by configuring the personalization site and basically adding a link to the site which we want to kind of limit, or we want to show to be visible within the top navigation. And let's say that it's a team personalization, and this is a site for directors, and the owner is Dan Jump, and the target audience, in this case we are able to select the directors from the audiences. So we're able to say that only those who actually belong to this director's audience are able to see this link within their my site. Clicking OK, and after that, that's a visibility setting for the my site top navigation. Good example of the my site of the audience functionality. We can also configure here the synchronization settings and which kind of connections do we actually have from the AD or from alternative identity systems, and then there's the organization mappings as well. So we're able to import organizations from the AD as well. There's a lot of different functionalities, and especially the user profiles is something which you probably want to utilize within your customizations if you need to store some user dependent information for a particular user. And that's definitely a really valid option and gives flexibility on the customization design.
Social information and functionalities are heavily dependent on the search functionality, and during crawling time a specific security trimming is applied so that users are not able to see tags which are created for information she or he does not have access. Security trimming can be configured using PowerShell and is enabled by default. You can also write a custom security trimmer if you'll need to create security trimming for information outside of the SharePoint. A lot of the social capabilities are dependent on timed jobs, which are scheduled to be executed in different times. These timed jobs are responsible of updating information based on user actions. Good example of the timed jobs based approach is the rating functionality. When a user clicks specific rating for any content on the user interface, requested rating is applied after the social rating synchronization job is executed. In this section, we'll concentrate on blog and wiki functionalities available in SharePoint. There's a lot of new improvements in these areas as well, especially from the user experience point of view. There's also a new Enterprise Wiki template available, which can be considered as an advanced wiki compared to the standard wiki model. As mentioned already in the section introduction, blogs and wikis take benefit of the new user experience and enhanced editing capabilities. Similarly, as for site pages, we can easily edit blog and wiki information using rich editor available from Ribbon. There's also support for similar wiki linking as, for example, for theme site pages. Theme site pages are actually pages on wiki functionality. Picture on the slide shows an example of the new user interface for blogs. Wiki editing uses the new 2010 user experience throughout the functionalities. Editing functionalities are available from the ribbon, and we can utilize, for example, the visual preview. We can also place web parts directly to wiki content without specific web part zones. SharePoint 2010 provides also new advanced wiki functionality compared to the standard wiki sites. Enterprise Wiki is based on a publishing site, so it can benefit of all familiar publishing site functionalities like enhanced branding capabilities using master pages and custom CSS. Enterprise Wiki uses its own content type and page layouts, which can be used in our own customizations, meaning that we can create our own Enterprise Wiki content type by inheriting the out-of-the-box one and extending its metadata by adding new site columns. We can then expose these site columns to provide additional metadata options for our wiki content. Enterprise Wiki utilizes also by default managed metadata, which provides centralized terms to be used as a metadata for the wiki content as well. Master pages can be used to provide alternative branding compared to the out-of-the-box branding. It's quite common to create a master page based on company branding guidelines and use it throughout the SharePoint installation. We can create our own custom master page either by using SharePoint Designer or deploy a new one to be available using Feature Framework. You can easily create new wiki structure and page layouts by inheriting your own content types from the Enterprise Wiki page. You can then create new page layouts which are used to define how the information is actually rendered. Obviously, you can create also new page layouts for the default content type if there's no need to extend it. Page layouts have to be available from the master page gallery so that we would be able to use them from the user interface. You can either create new page layouts using SharePoint Designer or deploy them using Feature Framework, depending on your customization policy. After the new page layout is available, we'll need to configure it to be explicitly available for the Enterprise Wiki sites. This can be done using the page layout and site templates setting functionality available from the site settings page. This is similar functionality as for any publishing site. In this example, we have created a custom page layout which provides additional functionality based on business requirements. There's out-of-the-box functionalities like the wiki editing, ribbon supports, rating, and categories. As additional functionalities on page layout, we placed out-of-the-box noteboard web part so that each wiki page can be commended by end users. There's also custom control to convert wiki pages to docx format. This can be achieved by using OpenXML SDK 2.0. In this case, we've also changed the theme used within the site, but you would as easily also be able to change the master page if required. In this demonstration, we'll have a look on the steps to customize Enterprise Wiki. We'll also cover how these steps can be automated using Feature Framework.
In this demonstration, we will have a closer look on the Enterprise Wiki functionality and how we can utilize that to create really interesting wikis within the intranets or other deployments as well. The Enterprise Wiki is actually a publishing site, and it provides us a possibility to utilize page layouts and customize the different page layouts available. This is the default Enterprise Wiki immediately when the site has been created. And the Enterprise Wiki, if we take the page and edit mode, we can actually see that it has few different fields by default available. The fields which we have are page rating and the categories for the Enterprise Wiki. Since it's an Enterprise Wiki, we're able to, it has the wiki functionalities available, so we're able to, for example, use the wiki linking to create links to move between the pages. And we're able to also really easily create new pages within the sites. Out of the box by default, we are using the wiki template and page layout where we have the page rating and categories available. But this is kind of a starting point for customizing the page layouts. So we can really easily create new page layouts available, for example using SharePoint Designer or deploying new page layouts to be available within the site. Let's have a closer look on that one a little bit. In this case, we'll start by using the SharePoint Designer, and I will show a little bit later how to do the same using feature frameworks and deploying new sites available. So we open up the SharePoint Designer, and we can see the different page layouts currently available from the page layout navigation selection. And there is the Enterprise Wiki, which is a base page, and Enterprise Wiki is the page basic page of enterprise functionality. If we want to have a custom page layout to be created, we can really easily create that by copying the existing Enterprise Wiki page layout and pasting it as a new template available. Obviously, we can do the same also using Feature Framework. And let's edit the file. And let's take the file out for editing. So let's start modifying the page layout which we just created. And here we go. Kind of a simple example. Let's add a commenting functionality to the page, which is missing there by default. I'll switch to code mode so I'm able to see for better where do I actually place these different functionalities. We can see from the code mode that we have, for example, the editing mode panel over there. We have the user field and the placeholder main exists over there. So if we want to add, for example, a new div which will have a commenting functionality underneath everything else, we can really easily do that by editing the page layout which is available. Let's add the web part here. So let's use the insert functionality, and from the insert functionality let's add a new web part, existing web part which is available within the particular site collection. And in this case we wanted to add a commenting web part, which is one of those new social web parts available. And that's available from the social collaboration functionality, and in here we have the node board. And let's place that web part to the page. let's save the changes and move to design mode, so we're able to see that the web port is actually visible within the page, as we were planning to have it there. Let's close the page, or let's rename the page first. So let's rename the page as a commenting template. So we're gonna provide this template available within the wiki selection as well. And let's checking the changes. Let's publish a major version so that everybody can actually see the new page layout available. And since we have the approval enabled by default, we need to also approve the changes from the UI. Before I'm gonna actually approve those, I'm gonna a little bit change the properties of the particular page layout. So it's commenting template and commenting template. Let's update the title as well. Basic wiki page with comments. And then I think that's good to go, and we're able to save it, and then we're able to check it in and publish a major version, and it has to be approved. And in this case I have the proper access rights to actually approve the changes, so we're able to get the changes in. Now if we move back to the front page of the site, there's one more additional thing which we need to do. By default we can switch between the page layouts from the page and page layout functionality, but by default there's only few page layouts available. So we need to expose our newly created page layout by using the page layouts and site templates functionality underneath the look and feel. So if we go there and if we then select the Enterprise Wiki page, the new commenting template to be available, we're able to actually take that page layout in use. Moving back to Enterprise Wiki front page, taking the page in edit mode, and since the page layout switching, we are taking advantage of the new WCM functionalities, web content management functionalities, and the page layout updates is really straightforward. We're able to switch the page layout to commenting template, and after that we have the commenting functionality available just above or below the actual page. Let's save the changes and let's start using the actual commenting functionality. In this case there was already earlier some comments created earlier, so that's the reason why we can see them in here. Adding new comment for the page, and let's post the comments. We're able to see that our comment is immediately available, and we're able to use this page layout then whenever we actually start creating new content for the wiki page, for the wiki pages. One of the things which has been requested as well concerning the Enterprise Wiki is the capability to have a table of contents or list of pages which are created. And that's not visible by default, but we can certainly add our table of content even in the enterprise, even in the page content area. So let's add a page layout, or let's add a web part, and let's add a content rollup web part, and let's add a content query web part to this area. And then it's all about configuring the content query web part against the pages library which we want to show within this case. So we want to show all of the pages within the pages library, and we want to show content types which are Enterprise Wiki content types. And for the presentational purposes we're able to define also the image style, and let's use the title, bulleted title, and let's click OK. And after that we have a relatively simple content table of content available for this particular site. Obviously, if you want, you can also extend the Enterprise Wiki content type by providing, for example, category information, and then you can use additional category information, and then you can use that for rendering the content by table of content to your front page of the site. Or you can even change the whole page layout of the front page to be more compelling for editors to have it available. For the actual, if we want to do the same using feature framework and solution deployment, let's have a look on that one as well. So what we've created is a custom Enterprise Wiki template which is deployed using feature framework. So we have this export wiki to docx solution which will provide this additional functionalities. I'll first show how it's actually packaged and automated the whole deployment, and then let's start using the particular page layout within the wiki. So we first need to start by obviously creating the new page layout to be available. So we can, for example, take the existing page layout from the SharePoint Designer, or now take the just created page layout from the SharePoint Designer and package that to the Visual Studio. In this case, we are using a few additional controls, and there's the social commenting web part like we did in our example, and then there's a conversion option which can be used to convert existing wiki to Word document. I'll show the functionality in a second. So when we have the ASPX page, which is a page layout page, we need to deploy the page layout first to the proper place, which is the underscore catalogs and master page location. The URL attribute is underscore catalogs and master page. That's the catalog for master pages and page layouts. And we are in here also associating the content type to be the Enterprise Wiki content type in a similar way as we can do this for any WCM page. When the page is available, we also need to do the proper changes for the page, whatever we want to do. So in this case, within the ASPX page, we did have this convert wiki to docx control, which will expose a functionality to control the existing wiki to Word document. And that one has been implemented using a visual web part with one single button, and there's a radio button to select whether we want to actually convert just an individual page or the whole wiki to Word document. Relatively simple functionality. The actual functionality which will convert the wiki to Word document is a little bit more complex, and this utilizes the OpenXML SDK too. But the basic idea is that we are reading the content of the document or the content of the file and generating our newly created document based on this wiki template docx, which is also deployed as part of the solution. So we have created this wiki template docx file, which we will use as a template to place our wiki information. And in here we're using the OpenXML code to go through the different elements and to create the necessary HTML which is placed to the docx document from the page content field of the list item. And the final thing to automate is to get the page layout to be visible. For this, the easiest way is to use feature receiver. So what we need to do is to associate the newly added page layout to be available on the available page layouts list. And this we can do using the set available page layout of the publishing web. So this will automate the fact that I want the site settings, page layouts, and site templates selection and provided this template to be available. So from the UI, if we take a look on the functionality, so the wiki functionality, and if we switch our page layout to use this page layout which is deployed as a solution package, we're able to see a few new functionalities available. And in this case, it's the customized enterprise wiki template, and the changed page layout has been changed. And let's save the changes. So what do we actually have here? We have the page commenting in a similar way as it was for the customized one, which we just created. But we also have the wiki conversion options, so we're able to convert the wiki or the current page to docx format. Clicking the convert from the page, we can save this and, for example, to desktop, and move to the desktop and open up the converted docx Word document, and that has included all of the updated changes, which are, well, all of the pages which are within our wiki as part of the Word document. Obviously, this functionality can also be included to ribbon as a ribbon button, if you like, or however you actually like to utilize it. And definitely, even though we didn't demonstrate this in here, we're able to add additional site columns to this Enterprise Wiki content type to make more metadata collected, to provide more metadata collections to be available as part of the wiki entering format. So we're able to actually collect additional information when the page is in edit mode.
In this final section, we'll concentrate on other new social capabilities available in 2010. Activity feeds are lists of activities which user tracks. Out of the box, these are visible from the My Site, and they show those activities which users have chosen to be tracked and are done by colleagues. There's a consolidated newsfeed web part available to show these activities for a particular user based on his or her settings. Activities are also published using Atom 2.0 feeds as in RSS format. For these RSS feeds, we have two different activity feeds available. The consolidated activities, which means activities which user tracks, and My Activities, which means those activities which user has caused. In upcoming slides, we'll concentrate more on the architecture of the activity feeds. Activity feed architecture is extensible, meaning that we can write our own activity applications which provide additional activities based on user actions in SharePoint or actions in some external application. This slide demonstrates the activity feed architecture. Basic idea is that any user action in SharePoint or in other application can be collected to activity feeds and published to colleagues. Out-of-the-box activity feeds are based on information collected concerning social activities and changes to user profile. This information is collected from the social and user profile databases using out-of-the-box social caterers, which are executed by scheduled timer job. Caterers generates activities to activity feeds based on users' settings in the user's profile page. Activities collected concerning certain users are broadcasted to users' colleagues. As mentioned in a previous slide, we can also write our own activity applications. When new activity application is registered, it will be visible as an option in user's profile page. Users can select if they are interested on the particular activity. Since custom caterers has to be executed to get the latest information to SharePoint, it's convenient architecture to utilize same model as out of the box. This would mean that custom timer job, which can be scheduled and which is responsible of the actual custom caterer execution. Actual custom caterer implementation depends on objective, objectives, but we could be, for example, to go through user profiles in SharePoint site to see those persons who have associated Twitter account to them. If account is available, we would go and collect the information from the Twitter side and broadcast any information published in Twitter as activities for users' colleagues. Activities won't be immediately available since they are relying on search functionality. When activities are being crawled, there's a separate social security trimming applied, which we covered previously a few slides ago. Activity applications can be registered using object model. This means that you can, for example, provide your custom activity application using feature receiver. If feature receiver is used, you should remember to scope your features properly, since user profiles are based on service application architecture and there can be numerous instances available. Notice that the custom caterer has to be running with an account which has sufficient permissions to user profiles so that it's capable of accessing the information and to be able to use it during the actual catering. These are pictures from of how activities are exposed from the user interface. First picture shows how the activity feed is shown in the My Site using the out-of-the-box web part. Picture on the right side shows the RSS rendering the actual activity information. This can be obviously utilized in your customizations as well. There's also a picture of the activity options available for the users to select from the profile page. This list depends on the deployment, since possible third-party or custom activity applications are listed automatically here as well. Each user can select which activities they are interested. Let's have an example of the activity components and how it could be used. We could create a custom activity caterer or application which is responsible of observing activities users make in external CRM application. Since we add a new activity application to system, new selection to follow up these activities would be available on profile page. Each activity application has their own activity types, for example, new meeting. There's also an activity template which defines how the information is rendered in activity feeds. Actual activity event is information shown in the activity feed. In this case, it's information concerning meeting between CIO Dan Jump and Contoso Corporation. SharePoint 2010 includes also Tag Cloud web part, which can be customized if required. Customizations are implemented by inheriting either Tag Cloud base web part or Tag Cloud web part classes from the Microsoft.SharePoint.Portal.WebControls namespace. Custom information to be shown can be modified by providing alternative tag information compared to the out-of-the-box implementation. As part of the new out-of-the-box capabilities, new manager classes have been implemented for manipulating comments, ratings, and tags. Each of these social information types has their own manager class, which can be utilized in our customizations. These classes are available in Microsoft.Office.Server.Social namespace. These manager classes are extremely easy to use and provide rapid customization options for providing alternative implementations of these social capabilities. Common requirement is, for example, write a custom rating control. This is an example of usage of the social commenting manager in custom web part. There's two methods on the example. First one is used to get the methods to be shown, and the other one is used during saving a new comment. In this example, we create object instance in both of these methods for clarity purposes. Notice how easily we can get all comments in getComments for a page method using getComments method available from the social comment manager. Also, saving new comment is extremely easy using add comment. Using these managers, you can define comments for any URL you want. In this case, we utilized the URL of the particular page. Let's have an example of writing a custom commenting web part. This demonstration shows the required steps to start utilizing social code managers in your own customizations.
In this demonstration, we'll concentrate on the new manager functionalities or code available to manipulate and create social content within the SharePoint 2010. Why would you do this? Well, the out-of-the-box functionalities, for example, the rating and the noteboard web part, can be relatively difficult to customize if you need to change the UI behavior or modify, for example, the rating to render the different stars using Silverlight. If you need to do this kind of, if you have these kind of requirements, you can easily write similar code by utilizing the code managers which are available. So let's add our custom commenting web part to this page, which has been deployed earlier. And I'll first demonstrate the functionality which is available, which kind of mimics the out-of-the-box noteboard functionality, but we can easily customize the layout and the rendering if we want. So in this case, we have the comment list functionality available. And if I save that to the site, we're able to see that there's already earlier comments available. And this web part is listing the different comments as a list, not as a page. And we're able to see that there's 5 comments currently available, and 3 of them are actually visible at the moment. We're also showing the user profile image next to the commenting functionality. So if I now I will add a new comment, and then we can see that the comment itself is added dynamically using Ajax in a similar way as the out-of-the-box functionality works. And we can definitely see all of the different comments which are available as well. As mentioned, this is relatively close to the out-of-the-box commenting functionality, but you might have different requirements within your case. And implementing this kind of a comment interface is relatively straightforward, especially the key code of storing the comments and getting the comments. It's only a few lines of code. Let's have a look how this is actually implemented. So first of all, we need to have obviously we are using the Visual Studio Visual Studio 2010 SharePoint project types, and then we need to have reference to this user profile assembly. User profile assembly and Office server assembly. The user profile assembly has the key code concerning the user profile handling. So within our page, within our design, we have a single visual web part which is actually rendering up the different comments, and there's quite a lot of styling available, and it uses update panels, so it is using Ajax, and then there's the actual ASP repeater which is responsible of showing the actual lists of comments. And all of this information which we are seeing here is binded to the actual repeater object using information and data which is get from the comment manager. How do we actually render the comments, that's not that relevant, but how do we actually get the comments to be rendered, and that's interesting. So first of all, how do we actually add those comments to our using the comment manager? So submit new comment. The submitting of the new comment or adding new comments to any URL is extremely straightforward, since the only thing we need to do is create instance of the comment manager, and the social comment manager is providing all of the required interfaces to store any comment against any URL. Adding the comment only requires that we are getting the URL and the actual comment to be added. And after that, that information is stored within the social database and it will be available for consumption. What about the actual getting the comments? That's almost as easy as 2 lines as well. So we are getting the comments based on the URL, and we are getting an array of social comments objects. And in this case, we can bind, we can bind the social comment objects to, for example, ASP.NET Data Repeater or something else. So we have this getComments method, which will give us all the required information back. So basically, key code of storing and getting the information is 2 lines. And this really demonstrates the power of these managers which are now available. The rating itself hasn't been demonstrated within the web part, but the rating functionality has also the social rating manager. And if we create a new social rating manager, we can see that the interfaces are as easy as possible. So we have the set rating, and only thing we need to do is to define the URL and the rating which we actually want to say. And if we want to get the rating for any URL, there's the get rating functionality or ratings functionality. Either way, there's the URL as the parameter to use. So we can really easily create any kind of a custom rating field or rating functionality if required. And there are similar managers available for the tags if you need to access the tags which have been entered for the any site or any page. I think that demonstrated quite well the power of the managers, and let's not concentrate on the UI rendering of the web part too much.
We'll next go through a few web services available to access and manipulate social and profile information remotely. We'll first cover the user profile service, which can be used to access and modify profile information. You can also use the service to manipulate certain profile-related information, like colleagues. This service existed in SharePoint already in previous 2007 version. Service is located in the _VTI_bin folder and is named as user profile service async. Example usages would be, for example, to manage SharePoint colleagues based on associations in Facebook or in LinkedIn. You could also have some profile property in SharePoint which is not imported from Active Directory or mapped automatically. Rather, it's based on some internal HR application, and whenever it's updated there, updates should be synced to SharePoint. In this example code, we'll access user profile service to solve information concerning users' colleagues. This example is written in Silverlight, but the service is definitely available for other technologies as well. In this case, we have created service reference for the Visual Studio project called User Profile Service. When reference exists, we can point the URL to access and make the necessary HTTP binding and endpoint configurations. Since Silverlight calls web services asynchronously, when initial configuration has been done, we create a synchronous event handler, which will be called when the service response arrives. We can get the colleagues by calling get user colleagues async, and after the response from the server has arrived, we can do whatever we required. Social Data Service is a new service available in SharePoint 2010. It can be used to create and manipulate social elements, meaning nodes, as in comments, tags, and ratings remotely. Social Data Service is located in a standard SharePoint services location and is called as a Social Data Service async. As an example implementation, We could, for example, generate comment information remotely from Office clients using custom action panel, or why not exposing rating functionality for the document if it's opened from the SharePoint. In this case, we have created a reference to the service and named that as a social data service. After the initial configuration, we can access social information available. In this case, we are using the get comments on URL async method to get comments for the particular URL. As you can see, this example is also from Silverlight, and we are using a synchronous model. When the results are arrived from the server, it's again up to the application how the information is actually utilized. There's also a new service available to track different user profile changes. User profile change service provides list to profile change activities which can be utilized in our customizations. As out of the box, this is the same information which is visible in the activity feed if user does any changes in his or her profile. Service is located again in a default service location and called as a user profile change service. This service could be, for example, used to update external systems based on profile information updates. This example demonstrates the usage of the user profile change service. After initial configuration, we used the get user all changes async method to access changes concerning particular user. Similarly, as to previous demonstration, this example is from Silverlight application and service calls are executed asynchronously. Let's have a demo of using these different services remotely. We'll check how to get started with the development and what kind of possibilities are available.
In this demonstration, we'll concentrate on the different services available to consume from any external location, for example in Silverlight, concerning the social functionalities and the profile property functionalities. What we have done is created a single kind of a simple Silverlight web port, or actually Silverlight application, which is hosted on a Silverlight web port to demonstrate the different services available. So, for example, we can create or request the latest status message which the administrator has entered, or we can do the same, for example, for alternative users as well, like Dan Jump. And for additional functionalities, we can definitely use the same user profile service functionality to get, for example, the profile picture. Obviously, we need to first request the URL of the picture and then actually request the actual picture from our Silverlight application. But that's definitely one of the options. One of the social service is also providing us these different kind of functionalities concerning managing and getting information concerning comments and rating. So in this case, we have requested the latest comments on a particular URL. Or we can use the user profile change service to actually give us information on the changes which have been updated on particular user's profile. And for the actual implementation of this small Silverlight application, let's have a look on the Visual Studio structure. So what we have here is a Visual Studio solution with two different projects. The other one is for the Silverlight application, and the other one is for deploying the actual Silverlight application to SharePoint. As you might already know, the deploying of the Silverlight application is extremely straightforward. The only thing you need to do is to define a project output reference to a single module element, and after that the Visual Studio will take care of taking the latest XAP file from the output of the profile of the Silverlight application and deploying that to the SharePoint side. Basically meaning that in this case, for example, we get the profile service demo XAF file automatically, always the latest one version available within the SharePoint project. The actual Silverlight application, let's have a look on that one as well. This is relatively simple. The design is really straightforward, just to demonstrate the different functionalities. So there's a few buttons and a few different controls available. But for accessing the information, we first of all use the social data service, which was one of the different services available, to get information concerning the comments. And the URL of the social data service is relatively easy to remember. It's social data service ASMX. And we can access that information by using the following model. So in here we have the comments on URL. So what are we doing here on the code? We are creating the required HTTP binding and endpoint code. Then we are creating an instance of that particular reference, which we already had added. And then we are adding an event receiver for the asynchronous call of the get comments on URL. And we are providing the URL and additional parameters to that call. And when the call has, when the server side has executed the information we have sending, we actually get called by the in this event receiver, or sorry, event handler, where we can then manipulate or do whatever we want with the content itself. Let's go through this one by one with debugging. And since we are deploying Silverlight applications, we can deploy those as sandbox solutions. So the actual Silverlight or the deployment of the solution is extremely fast and straightforward. And we can really easily start debugging these functionalities as well. So we're requesting the comments for the site pages home ASPX. And we have the breakpoint waiting on the results. So we're able to actually see that we're getting a list of social comments, and individual social comments have numerous different attributes and properties available, but we're listing the comment and a title, which is actually the URL of the particular item. And when those have been listed, they're listed in a list box. For the profile change data, we use a little bit different service, which is the user profile change service. So let's click the stop debugging and let's see the actual URL. It's user profile change service, relatively easy to remember. And when we are using that, we can easily access the latest changes which have happened for the particular user. And the model is identical as it was for getting the comments. We're first gonna do the basic HTTP binding endpoint configurations. Then we're creating the SOAP client, associating an event handler to the asynchronous call. And after that we can list the individual user profile data changes based on our requirements. And for the final thing, there was the status message and the user profile picture. Both of these are actually using the same service to access the user profile information, so that we're able to get the information which is stored for the particular user in the user profile and then consume that. The status message is really straightforward. Let's have a look on image solving, since we are also showing the image within the UI. So let's change, I'll hide these regions. First of all, for the image showing, we need to have the web client, or we're using the web client to access the exact image which we are loading directly to our Silverlight application. And for the actual implementation, we are using accessing the user profile service ESMX and adding a event receiver to the get user profile property by account name and then executing the actual call. The picture is stored in a user profile property called picture URL, and when that information is available, we are actually executing the web client OpenRead async to really actually read the picture URL or the content of the picture. And when that one has been completed, we're able to actually take the stream of the image and generate a bitmap and show that in the image source. So the image is part of the web Silverlight application, which is visible, which is available in the user interface. Really straightforward. And clicking the get picture button will start the call. Administrator, and we're getting the latest image available. The status message is the same, basically the same implementation, but the only thing we need to do is to request the proper property. So the difference is in here. So we're requesting the SBS status node. So the latest status is always stored in the profile property of SBS status nodes. Now we can always request that information also remotely. Quite straightforward, relatively easy. And the key point here is that even though the demo is using Silverlight, we can access the same information using also alternative technologies. So we're able to get information, update information on external systems based on these services as well. So there's a lot of different functionalities available, and obviously we're now getting information, we're able to update the information to SharePoint side as well.
That sums up the module. We started with the introduction to social information in SharePoint 2010. Then we covered the different options available to customize My Sites. There's definitely still additional options available which we didn't cover, but we tried to go through the most common requirements. We also had a look on which kind of functionalities we have available for no-code solutions or for our customizations to utilize. In blogs and wikis section, we covered the different site templates available and how they could be customized. As a final selection, we went through miscellaneous capabilities, which we could also customize and further enhance in our own deployments. Thanks for your time, and hopefully the presentation was useful.